Man, today sure is a good day. Let me check how the channel's doing. The playlist section, maybe I can go check my old Pokemon TCG videos. Oh man, that was so long ago. Wait a minute, challenges? When was the last time I did one of these?
Today, I want to bend the rules.
3 years. Alright, let's go and fix this. Hey everyone! Before we start, I want to give a little bit of background info that's relevant to this video. Throughout the making of the model series when I was still doing that, some people wanted me to cover the Pseudoroids in the style of those videos. I wanted to do this, but I can't say much about them individually, so I think covering all of them in a way that lets me do a style of video I haven't done in years is a nice compromise in the subject of today's video. You know what I'm doing by now, so let's just get straight to the rules. Only the 8 Pseudoroids can be used. They'll be covered as we go. If there are any cases where I am forced to switch into a model form other than cutscenes, the challenge is deemed impossible, and we move on to see how much we're forced to use them. The obvious exception is before we get Buckfire. We can't do anything about that, so it shouldn't be counted. For the sake of making this run as hard as possible, and to prevent any cheese, I will be playing this run entirely on Expert mode. And I won't collect any upgrades. Not a rule, but I'll be playing as Ash. It doesn't change anything other than some attacks for the Bimetal bosses. I just want to keep continuity's sake with the model series, if that even matters to anyone. I'll make sure to mention any attacks only Gray has to go against if relevant. That's it for the rules. And with everything said, let's get this show on the road! Before getting our first Pseudoroid, we have to kill a giant robot that loves doing the 6-7 hand motion, somehow survive against Prometheus, get forced to merge with this disgusting, putrid clinker, and defeat our first Pseudoroid in the first form of this run, Buckfire. Out of all of the Pseudoroids, Buckfire is the best one we could have started off with. Buckfire has this automatic dash, so we'll always be going fast, and if L is pressed, Buckfire not only goes a bit faster, but his horns with slash dash do damage to whatever touches them, but it's little. His regular attack is Burning Arrow, which shoots a spread of free flame arrows. He has free charge attacks, being Double Tomahawk if you hold Y and release it on the ground without directional input, which has a tomahawk fly in a triangular pattern on both sides, Rocket, done by holding up and releasing Y on the ground, launching Buckfire up while doing damage along the way, and Meteor Kick, which is done by holding and releasing Y in the air, having Buckfire do a kick diagonally downward, doing damage along the way. Rocket and Meteor Kick can destroy these hard blocks and knock back small enemies, while all of his moves besides Slash Dash can destroy ice blocks. Last, when jumping off walls, Buckfire does a big jump off of them, allowing for viable wall climbing between two walls that are far away. As for the good and bad, which is very important for Buckfire as we'll be using him a lot, Buckfire has great movement, both with the usual dashing and with Rocket. His moves are generally solid as well, having great range with Burning Arrow, coverage on both sides with Double Tomahawk with the bonus of breaking apart big item pickups, and big damage with Rocket and Meteor Kick on top of the movement benefits. His element, Fire, kills enemies quicker than he already could and takes out ice bosses faster, which is very cool. However, Buckfire is tall, so he'll be getting hit by things the usual models in the smaller Pseudoroids wouldn't. Despite the good things about his element, he is a fire element Pseudoroid, so any thunder element bosses limit his offensive potential, making Burning Arrow useless. As mentioned earlier, he does big jumps off walls, which can be nice for sure, but it also makes wall jumping when there's just one wall a tedious nightmare. He can still do it, but it'll make some stages way more annoying due to it, you'll see. If I were to make a tier list, relative to all the Pseudoroids, I want to be clear on that, Buckfire would be an A tier. He's overall great, but has enough issues that matter to hold him back from being S tier. With Buckfire obtained, we have 2 choices for stages, each given a Pseudoroid. Arctic Ice Floe, which gives Chronoforce, or Tower of Verdure, which gives Rospark. Because we have Buckfire and Buckfire alone, going for Chronoforce is the obvious choice. With our decision made, let's go melt some ice. I don't have too much to say about the stage, as we have just Buckfire, the ice is no issue, the mini-boss gets taken out quickly, and you pretty much can just spam Burning Arrow for the entire stage. You're just playing the stage normally, really. As for Chronoforce's fight, just spam Burning Arrow until he dies. It shouldn't be too different from fighting him regularly, but Buckfire's height can get you hit every now and then, so it's a bit harder at worst. I'll be making a tier list for how hard these guys are, and Chronoforce will go right here towards the lower half. With Chronoforce's time cut short, we get him as our next form. Chronoforce has unlimited movement in the water. You can move and dash around as much as you like. However, no movement can be done on land, and you cannot wall jump regardless of being in land or water. He has a standard attack with Ice Needle, which I believe he can have up to 3 on screen at a time, and his most noteworthy attack, Time Bomb. It costs 12 points of bimodal gauge and slows down time for 15 seconds, slowing down almost everything in the game. He can also block spikes and most projectiles that hit his shell, reflecting some of them. Chronoforce has the best movement in water out of all of the Pseudoroids, and it's not even close, so stages or sections in them should be very simple. His shell is very good defensively, and Time Bomb is arguably the best move in the ZX series, giving us 15 seconds to do more damage to a boss than usual, pass through a section of a stage easily, or something along those lines. Ice Needle being an attack of the ice element can freeze enemies and do more damage to thunder bosses. However, Chronoforce is a dead weight on land, unable to do anything other than use Time Bomb. He is quite a wide lad, having a big hurt box despite his shell on top. Time Bomb is also a very committal move, using up 3/4 of the bimodal gauge, so if we use it, it better be worth it. He also can't use trans servers. It's minor, but still. With that said though, Chronoforce is going to go in B tier for Time Bomb alone, even with his flaws holding him back massively. He's a C tier Pseudoroid with a S tier move. Time for Tower of Verdure, and I have as much to say about it as Arctic Ice Floe. There's not much that's interesting here. The Vine section does require you to use Buckfire's rockets since he can't climb ladders, but that's nothing to get stressed about. I didn't and won't mention ladders as a Pseudoroid con as it's almost universal with these guys. I'll just bring it up here as it's relevant. The mini-boss is a bit annoying due to Buckfire's height, but it's just annoying and not much more. You should be able to kill it before it can break the floor. You want to be careful as you get to the boss door due to this enemy specifically, as its attack pattern can hit Buckfire easily, but proper timing will suffice. Now for Rospark, you'll mainly be hitting him with double tomahawks. And don't hesitate to do preemptive wall jumps if he gets close to you. Everything is fine until he gets to half health, where he starts healing himself by 6 HP every time he uses Giga Laser. You'll get hit if he has the space to use it, so try baiting him to a position where you can wall jump over him. Even if you save bimodal gauge for it, you'll have a very hard time out damaging his healing. It can be done with good manipulation of his AI, but it's still incredibly, and I mean incredibly tedious. You can use Chronoforce here to have an easier time, but it'll take even longer than without it due to how much bimodal gauge has to be committed. Rospark for now is absolutely going in the upper echelons of this tier list, and having a boss this difficult early on is pretty much the gatekeeper for a challenge run like this. With Rospark finally wilted, let's see what his playable self has in store. Rospark has 2 states, bulb state when not attached to a vine or pole, and flower state when attached to one. You attach to a pole by inputting up near one. His bulb state is very slow. He can do a melee attack with his vine, and he can launch thorns from the top of his head by pressing R. Both can be charged to give them the thunder element, which can stun enemies and fire bosses. In his flower state, you have the same vine melee attack, but if you hold left or right, you can switch poles if able to do so. You can move up and down on these poles as much as you wish. Pressing R gives you a spread of 4 thorns. Charging the vine is the same as his bulb form, but his attack with R becomes a spread of 3 electric thorns, which become a triangular area of damage if all 3 hit surfaces that are registered at the moment. Rospark is pretty decent in his flower form. He has great movement given there's a lot of poles, and his moves in his flower state are alright. The thunder element is strong too, being able to stun enemies. However, this movement with the flower form is very limited, only being seen every now and then in this game. His bulb form is also very slow. You'll be taking a while to get to places most other forms can get to in a short time, and even though its moves in this form are usable, it's too slow to get mileage with them most of the time. The element problem isn't as big of an issue against ice bosses, as you can just not use the charged variants, unlike Buckfire who has his main attack useless against thunder bosses. Not that you'd use him there, but still. I'll put Rospark in the C tier. His flower form is solid, but it's seen too little to carry him to the higher tiers. We do little showcases for the Pseudoroids we have, and proceed onto the oil field. This section is easy up until this part. It looks pretty bad, but some good positioning with Buckfire's wall jump will do. After a bit, Rospark gets some usage with these poles, and you can just spam roasting it to good success. As for the mini boss, get right below its head and spam the R button until it dies. Once you get inside the hunter base, use Buckfire to kill the enemies and Rospark to reactivate the power. After getting that situated, we can now take on Atlas. There are poles here, so Rospark would be good if this upper platform didn't ruin everything for him. Use Buckfire for movement and chip damage, while Rospark gets most of the main damage done. If you can't find the opportunity to do anything with Rospark, just play it safe with Buckfire. You can use Chronoforce 2 to make this a lot easier, especially as Gray, and his shield can be used to block Atlas's basic shots if you mess up timing with dodges. I recommend time bombing when the fight starts. Atlas is a bit easier as Gray, as she can use Groundbreaker W on the upper platform while Groundbreaker B can only be used on the ground, giving you a bit more room to use Rospark. Time Bomb isn't necessary, but it helps for sure. And regardless of if you use it or not, Atlas puts up a good fight. I'll put her in the middle tier of difficulty. She's not as tedious as Rospark, but she has more firepower and more dangerous attacks than Chronoforce. However, having access to Time Bomb will make the majority of bosses easier from here on out. After beating her, we need to break these blocks. Sounds simple enough. I'll just use Huh? Nothing works on them. We can't even leave until they're broken. Looks like there's only one option, leaving this challenge impossible. But there's still a lot of video and a lot of this game left, so let's see how many force uses there are, this one being the first. Anyway, let's get out of here, hop on this train, and take a trip to Legion HQ. The start is nothing to worry about. In any of these stair sections, we can just skip with rocket and well-timed wall jumps. After a bit of that, we can now fight Sharnak. I pronounced his name wrong throughout the entire model series. Like Atlas, you'll be using Buckfire for movement, and Chronoforce to block Sharnak's kunais if needed. Both the Shurikens and Mandala Stars can be an issue to deal with, but the Shurikens require way more movement from you, so I'd say Ash has the easier time here. His special attack is a tricky one for sure. You can get lucky and hit him out of it with Double Tomahawk, or block everything with Chronoforce and hit him with Buckfire once he gets out of the attack. For this fight, do not use Time Bomb, because if Sharnak vanishes after getting hit, it'll just waste a good amount of the 15 seconds the time slow lasts. This fight is difficult. Sharnak was my initial gatekeeper when I tried doing this run as Gray, but otherwise he isn't at a level of difficulty you haven't seen before. Sharnak can go in the middle tier above Atlas. The Sharnak tutorial is easily done with Buckfire, and for the rest of the stage, oh boy. While some of these big walls can be skilled without any issue, the singular ones can't, and even with the boost from Rocket, they still require a lot of well-timed wall jumps to get over. And God forbid you mess up. Screw the mini-boss, that's easy. This is the real challenge of the latter part of Legion HQ. These Ladybug platforms help out though. Shout out to them. After we go through that, Albert does his betrayal and we complete the stage. It's no doubt the hardest stage we've seen so far due to the latter section mainly, and Sharnak, but everything else was pretty manageable. We now have 4 stages open to us. Floating Ruins and Highway don't contain any Pseudoroids, so we naturally leave those 2 for last. But Scrapyard and Control Center do, giving us Vulturon and Queenbee respectively. You can do either of them, but minimum uses wise, Queenbee is the only option, so to the Control Center we go! In the first room of this stage, the door to the elevator section contains an alternate path with a pole, so transform the Rospark and go there so we don't have to deal with an auto-scroller. Regardless, going upward here is a challenging task, but a doable one. Once you see this door, go up and become Buckfire to land here and make your way to it, but you can go even higher for the giant health pickup if needed. Ultimately, both doors lead to the same place. The mini-boss here is annoying, but Burning Arrow should take it out with no major issues since it hits several of the targets with proper spacing. After that, this stage is a lot more chill for Buckfire. No big singular walls, and these walls here are meant for Buckfire to take advantage of. You'll have to do careful maneuvering after, but it's an interesting way of going through it at its hardest. You'll have to manage Buckfire's jumps in the spike section too. This was the most fun stage so far, getting good uses from Rospark and mainly Buckfire. Sorry Chronoforce. Now it's time to fight Queenbee. The strategy here is simple. Use Buckfire to take out her hive, use Rospark to take her out. Chronoforce can be used to block her missiles, which I forgot when getting footage, so good job past me. Rospark can stun the hive for a bit with the thunder element, which can be useful for interrupting some attacks, but hitting the hive with him is a tricky endeavor. Don't get me wrong, she isn't that easy. Her beat and light attacks do cause problems, but even with that, this fight is more than manageable if you play right. I'll put her below Chronoforce. With Queenbee defeated, we get to see what she's all about. Without the hive though, unfortunately. Queenbee can dock into certain slots by pressing down. A press of the B button can have her interact with these, and pressing up will make her get out of them. After your initial jump or when you're in the air, you can press B to do another jump. Up to 16 more, as each additional jump costs 1 point of biometal gauge. Both her needle and fire shots fire diagonally downward. Needle shot is more spammable and passes through walls, while fire shot deals more damage and can burn enemies and ice bosses. Queenbee has by far the best movement, and not just out of all of the Pseudoroids, but the models as well. She can go pretty much anywhere provided she has sufficient biometal gauge. Her moves are also decent. You have the spammable normal option with needle shot and a high damage option with fire shot. On the other side of the coin, her amazing movement is very dependent on this biometal gauge, which can be an issue with the biometal gauge needed with fire shot. Her attacks go diagonally downward, making them awkward against enemies above or even at your height level. Like with Buckfire, she does struggle against thunder bosses, but not to the same extent. Queenbee can be in the A tier. Like Chronoforce, she's very dependent on biometal gauge and does have annoying flaws, but that movement alone will make even Rospark a solid B tier. She's just below Buckfire for her worst combat prowess. Let's go to the Scrapyard now, where Vulturon awaits. Queenbee can get rid of the scrap from above in the starting section, but using Buckfire does the job just as well. Everything goes smoothly until this part. None of her options can hang on to them, so a Model P usage is needed. A time bomb lets us go under it with no issue, until we have to deal with another lift. Do the same thing as last time. For the falling scrap, slow it down with time bomb and use Buckfire to create an opening. After that, we deal with another lift, and use time bomb again with a potential damage boost along the way. Another Model P usage is needed, and gaps like these are the exact reason why we went for Queenbee first. The final section is mostly more chill, but be careful about this enemy here. If you need to hit enemies from above, use Rospark, but that'll be the most usage he gets here. After one more time bomb and Model P use, we're finally done, but make sure this is blue before leaving the room. Man, that was a lot of model usage. Let's hope this doesn't continue, but enough of that. Vulturon time. Again, Buckfire will get most of the spotlight. Chronoforce can be and is handy, but again, he's not needed here. Burning Arrow helps keep the funky chunks at bay, Slash Dash can deal chip damage to everything, and Double Tomahawk can pierce through Vulturon's shield. Despite all of that in your favor, this fight is tricky, as his big attacks and the funky chunks can make you cornered, eventually making the fight more annoying than anything else. Even with that getting in the way, it shouldn't be too bad once you can control the chaos well enough. He can go in the same tier as Queenbee and Chronoforce, right in the middle since there's no elements to abuse, but Time Bomb does even that out. With Vulturon's concert over, take a look at what his encore leaves to impact the audience with. Vulturon's walking speed is about the same as the models when they walk, but he does this start and stop, so it's slower over time. When Vulturon touches a wall, he can hang onto them as long as he likes. He can pull down these weights. Vulturon hovers in the air, consuming biometal gauge. 2 points every second, I think. His regular attack creates a sound wave covering his entire body, while his charge attack has him swing his guitar, doing high damage and knocking back smaller enemies that get hit by it. Vulturon brings us something we've been struggling with for a while now. A traditional wall jump, so we no longer need to be Sisyphus with Buckfire. Hovering is also nice, letting us go over large gaps without much issue, as long as we have the biometal gauge to do so. Sound Vibration is a big move, which is never a bad thing to have, and Guitar Hammer is very strong. Vulturon is our first no-element Pseudoroid, so against bosses there's no elemental stuff getting in the way. To cut the melody short though, Vulturon's hovering consumes biometal gauge pretty quickly, and combined with Guitar Hammer being as good of a move as it is, it can create tough decisions on how to manage it best. Sound Vibration's low damage, even with its range, can still be risky as it does make you have to get close to enemies. He's also slow, not Rospark levels, but due to the start and stopping he does on the ground, it does contribute to that. He's nerfed in the water too, with Sound Vibration being smaller. It's not by much, but it's there. Vulturon belongs in the B tier above Chronoforce. He doesn't have any broken moves like Time Bomb, but it's not needed to be useful. I would want to go on a tangent, but for the sake of the video we can't, so instead of my way, it's the highway we'll go. Vulturon gets some nice usage here. We can hover above enemies and take them down with Sound Vibration, Guitar Hammer can knock stuff back, and Vulturon is too slow to aggro these enemies, making them easy prey. For the first mini-boss, we'll be forced to use Rospark to take it out. It takes a while, but it'll go down. This section afterwards isn't anything noteworthy. Use Vulturon for its majority, but play it safe with Buckfire if it helps. The second mini-boss can be taken care of with Vulturon and Buckfire, both being the main damage and knockback dealers. Switch to Queenbee for her movement if necessary, legendary, but regardless it can and will be killed. This stage was a very good first impression for Vulturon in this challenge. I'm very happy with the amount of usage he gets here. As for Fetus, you have great options in Buckfire and Queenbee. I went for Buckfire as his ground and air speed is faster, but Queenbee can finish up the fight quicker, so both are valid choices. Since there's pits, just spam Burning Arrow or Fire Shot until he dies. The fight isn't effortless, but he's no question the easiest boss we've had to deal with so far. Now for the last, but certainly not least of these stages, the Floating Ruins. Despite the Floating Ruins being a stage with a lot of wind and lightning, we'll be using Buckfire a lot like usual. Him and Rospark are the only Pseudoroids that can get around the pulse cannons, so Rospark gets to be in his good form again for a bit. After the first section, take advantage of Queenbee's movement with the tornadoes and the wind. It's really funny being off screen for a while. The stage overall, while being a good challenge, is a very fun showcase of our new Pseudoroids. Mainly Queenbee, but Vulturon does have his moments here. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, Aeolus is by far the hardest boss at this point in the run, even with Time Bomb giving you time to breathe and do damage. I recommend popping Time Bomb immediately, using Buckfire for movement, and Rospark as your main damage dealer. For his half health attack, go Queenbee. She's relatively short and fast enough to not get hit here. Repeat the cycle the best you can until he dies. When I tried doing this run last year as Gray, this is where I stopped. If you mess up or get cornered, Aeolus can just say fuck you and kill you with tornadoes or whatever else he decides to throw out. As for Ash, not that he's easy in the slightest, but you only have to deal with one tornado on your side, and you can use Buckfire or Queenbee to go over them. With Gray, you'd have to go between the tornadoes as one of them would catch your guys from above. For how to rank him, it's weird as your character choice matters so much here, but I think since you rely on Time Bomb so much here regardless of character choice, Chronoforce is practically required. I don't know if this fight is doable without him, at least as Ash, but I don't want to go for that, so he's at the top. With the wind dissipated, it's time to go to the Quarry, but we got more things to do before that. We have 2 more mandatory non-Pseudoroid uses to get here in the first place. Anyways, it's time to go down to the Quarry, but not for mining. The first and most problematic part about this stage is the darkness. Nobody that we have can get around this problem or make it easier to deal with, but Vulturon is our best bet here. When we get to the platform section, switch to Queenbee for safety and keep doing that until you get to the boss door. Now it's time for Vent, and this fight's a lot rougher than it is with the models, let me tell you that much. Vent is very fast compared to most of our Pseudoroids, so we'll be using Buckfire as our way to catch up. When Vent decides to scale a wall, use that time to either do chip damage, or use Time Bomb and Guitar Hammer to take out chunks of his health. Keep in mind the latter strategy does require you to survive for a while before you can do it again. His rolling slashes can catch your jumps, he can always just nuke you with his triple slash, and if he holds onto a charge and gets knocked back, he can immediately fire it and do big damage to you if you don't book it immediately. My personal strat, like Rospark, was just to win it with Buckfire for the entire fight. Try to sneak double tomahawks in if possible, and get around the singular wall scaling when needed. Rising Fan against Vent can be really rough as it can catch your jumps going up a wall or force you to get off a wall. Fission against AO is easier to go against, but that doesn't matter much when the fight is this difficult regardless. Chronoforce isn't practically mandatory like Aeolus, but out of all of the ones that don't, this boss so far is the hardest. They can go above Rospark. This section of stage after the fight isn't anything too interesting, be mindful of where the spikes are and that's about it. As for the chase segment, Buckfire and Vulturon are viable options since they can break these blocks, but Vulturon's more energy efficient. Use damage boosting if needed, but it shouldn't take too long. The mini-boss right after can be rough, but ultimately nothing you haven't dealt with before. After dealing with it though, we go back to base and officially enter the late game. We can choose to go for Hedgeshock in the Mysterious Lab, Bifrost in Biolab, or Argoyle and Ugoyle in the Waterfall Ruins. I'd recommend going for Hedgeshock first. Argoyle and Ugoyle are fine options if you want them more, but Bifrost, well, I'll get to him when relevant. Now for the Mysterious Lab. This stage is definitely a lot cooler as Gray due to his story, so as Ash that is missed out on unfortunately. Anyway, time for the stage. Like usual, Buckfire and Vulturon are recommended, but I need more Queenbee footage, so here we are. Some enemies are in pretty weird spots, so switch between them. The little puzzle can be nerve-wracking as there are tricky enemies, but that's as hard as the stage gets. Not too bad overall. Now for Hedgeshock. Her attacks take up a lot of space, so your Pseudoroids can get caught by stuff the models wouldn't. I recommend using Vulturon for his less costly Guitar Hammer, and Sound Vibration can do chip damage when she rolls, and to kill these rats. If she lets water get into the arena, you can use Chronoforce properly for once. You can just pop a Time Bomb and end the fight right then and there with enough Ice Needles, but just using them is similarly effective. Hedgeshock is more annoying than hard. She's a joke with Time Bomb, and while she isn't free without it, she should be taken out easily enough, so the bottom tier of difficulty she goes. Hedgeshock didn't make us jolt with anything particular in our boss fight, so maybe she can shock us this time as a playable form. Hedgeshock compared to the other Pseudoroids is small, giving her an easier time dodging some attacks compared to her other options. Her roll does damage, and holding down not only makes her shorter, letting her go through these small gaps, but it stops the damage she can do. Her standard attack is Plug Shot, essentially just uncharged buster shots. Her charge attacks cover a lot of space. Spark Ball up covers enemies in the air, Spark Ball down covers enemies below you, and Spark Ball ladder covers both ends of a ladder. All of these go a lot faster in the water. Speaking of ladders, this is our first Pseudoroid that can climb them. It hasn't been a niche that's necessary so far, but the perk is nice regardless. Hedgeshock is very fast, having a roll that's as quick as a dash that you can jump out of, and you're able to go through small tunnels. She can climb ladders. While it hasn't and won't be a big deal, it lets us deal with them in a more safe manner than just dropping down. She can do damage in a lot of ways, with 5 different moves capable of doing so, and her charge moves cover a lot of space, making them effective not only for general use, but in situations where a lot of enemies are around you at once. They're faster in water. While this is niche, it's still cool to have. The Thunder element stunts enemies and fire bosses, allowing her to go through them and use her rolling spikes more effectively against them, so there's some synergy there. While Hedgeshock is fast on the ground and can climb ladders, she can't climb walls and doesn't have any other movement options, so she can't get blocked off by walls and gaps. Using her rolling spike against enemies can be risky if you use or time them wrong, getting hit in the process, and her capabilities on offense are heavily compromised against ice bosses. She's also gotten late, which does burn her down a bit sadly. Hedgeshock fits right in the B tier, below Vulturon as we get her late into the run, and we do have better Pseudoroids for movement, but Hedgeshock is still a welcome addition and an actually good Thunder Pseudoroid. Now it's time to go to the Waterfall Ruins. This stage is really pretty, so it's sure to be a fun time. Jesus! We have to fight Argoyle and Ugoyle immediately, so they'll take the spotlight for the majority of the stage. As there's 2 bosses you can hit, moves that have a lot of area coverage are useful here. Buckfire, Vulturon, and Hedgeshock can take advantage of this. I recommend Hedgeshock here as her size gives you an easier time dodging their attacks, and her spark balls can hit them frequently. You do want to be careful as you have to keep track of 2 bosses at once and what they'll do, so it might take a bit, but it shouldn't take more than a few tries at most, like these Pseudoroids down here. Now that we killed 2 Schizoids with 1 spark ball, can we use that double trouble to our advantage? Like Buckfire and Hedgeshock, Argoyle has a dash. It doesn't do damage, but it's still useful, and it'll last as long as the button is held down until you jump or get interrupted. Argoyle can use the R throw, throwing a bomb that'll bounce once before exploding. You can throw them up or down, but if you throw it upward, it will be affected by gravity. If you hold R and release with 8 points of bimetal gauge, you'll summon Ugoyle. Ugoyle has the U-kick, which can knock back small enemies and break blocks. In the air, Ugoyle does a rolling kick, which can hit several times. If you use U-kick on an R-throw bomb, the bomb changes its angle and becomes faster and stronger. Argoyle can also climb ladders. Argoyle has the same movement on the ground Hedgeshock has besides going through tunnels, but it's still decent enough. Their moves are solid, having a projectile you can angle up or down to catch enemies at those angles, and Ugoyle can make smaller enemies jokes while being able to do damage through walls and shields. Making the R-throw stronger is cool too, and being a model of the null element is always nice. However, they can't wall jump and don't have any more movement in the air, and their offense is relying on Ugoyle being out, so bimetal gauge is instrumental to using them. They can go in the B tier above Hedgeshock. Again, being gotten later in the run hurts their usage, but they'll be decent throughout the rest of it. They prove useful as Ugoyle can knock back most of these enemies up until here, where a switch to Queenbee or Vulturon is forced. After breaking this block, we can do the rest of the stage as intended. Fighting a mini-boss can be annoying and take a bit, but it's more of the same with them. We get to see Prometheus and Pandora for a bit before they dip again, and we only have 1 stage and 1 Pseudoroid left to go. So perhaps like a school field trip, let's take one to the biolab. Ugoyle can be used to cheese the initial section, and once we see the water in the tunnels, you can switch to Hedgeshock to skip some of this section, get back up and deal with everything from above, and use Ugoyle to deal with the rest of Biolab 1. Biolab 2 and onward will have us use Queenbee a lot to dock these slots to get them out of our way, and to block off the goop over here. Chronoforce can get some actual usage for a bit in the water too. After that, switch to Hedgeshock to go for this tunnel, that's why we went for her first, and towards the end, switch to Buckfire to remove the ice spikes. This stage was challenging and fun, necessitating constant switching of Pseudoroids and creative usage of them. As for Bifrost, we can tell one very obvious thing about him that'll be important for this fight. His design is awesome! Jokes aside, Bifrost's size makes him a very easy target while limiting your space heavily. As he is an ice element Pseudoroid, Buckfire and Queenbee should be your main damage dealers. Chronoforce can be used here, but he doesn't benefit from a big area to move or elemental property, so just use the fire Pseudoroids. I chose Buckfire and spammed Burning Arrow until he was dead. Burning Arrow melts his ice attacks and incinerates his wheels, so it's almost effortless with him. This is no question one of the easiest bosses we've gone against so far. Bottom tier of difficulty he goes. As for Bifrost himself, will we want to use him or never see him, even in a while? Bifrost is by far the biggest Pseudoroid. He's also slow, but due to his size isn't as slow as someone like Rospark in his bulb form, for example. His jumps deal damage if his feet hit any enemies when landing, which is fun to use, but keep in mind you can only stomp on one enemy per jump. Bifrost can release bladed wheels with Y that'll scale the floor and walls, stopping when they hit ceilings. With R, he does a bite. It's capable of breaking these blocks, which are otherwise invulnerable to any damage, and if you hold it down, he fires out his icicle teeth, spending 1 point of biometal gauge for each icicle. His jaw will also act as a shield. He can move while holding his mouth open, and his tail does damage when turning, even knocking back enemies. Bifrost moves have good range and good damage, and the ice element can freeze enemies and thunder bosses, turning off their hitboxes. As for the bad, here we go. He is fat, by far the biggest and tallest Pseudoroid in the game. He's slow, not Rospark slow, but it takes him ages to get anywhere. Both of these factors can make him combo food against enemies if you get hit by one. He's gone in very late in this game, but he in particular is bad for a minimum use run as he'll, at the earliest, be the second to last Pseudoroid you get. He can't go for doors due to his size, but he can use transservers, so he has one thing over Chronoforce at least. He also has no attacks while jumping other than him landing, so he's the only one vulnerable when jumping out of the Pseudoroids that can jump. Bifrost is the worst Pseudoroid in the game, and is the only D tier on this list. It's heartbreaking to me as not only is Bifrost just really cool, he's also very fun to use, whenever he manages to be useful anyway. That's it for the Pseudoroid overview, so if you want the tier list, go to the end of the video. But also my timeline finally gets to rest. I mean, just look at this! Anyway, we can initialize this transserver and go to the Undersea Volcano. Chronoforce is actually very helpful here, so use him if you feel like he's been neglected. He makes a complete joke of the opening section, either due to his shield or time bomb. It's up for you to decide. You can even reflect the mini Chronoforces here, which is fun to mess with. After going through the water sections, you can choose two different paths. The one on the right lets Rospark be the main attraction for one since there's a lot of pulls. Again, his flower stay is good, but there aren't many spots where it can be used. The left side lets you take better advantage of your usually stronger options, but Argoyle and Ugoyle make it free. I tried using Bifrost, but it was just more sad than anything else, man. This stage is very fun, giving more usability to our new Pseudoroids. Besides my goat, but it's a nice way to experiment with them. Prometheus kills Albert, and now we have to fight him and Pandora. This boss has these two tag in and out for their attacks, changing the elements you can exploit them with. Pandora is weak to ice when yellow, fire when blue, and Prometheus is weak to thunder when orange. Argoyle and Ugoyle are heavily recommended here. All of their attacks are null element, always making them effective, and the aerial U-kick is a massively nerfed roll and slash, which is still pretty good all things considered. As always, feel free to pop a Chronoforce time bomb if it helps. If Prometheus sets up these firewalls, you can use Bifrost wheels to hold them back. He can also do a lot of damage to Pandora when she sets up her electric attacks. Once they start attacking together, abandon Bifrost completely and start using Hedgeshock as your main damage dealer. Their attacks take up a lot of space, especially when both of them decide to dig in. They all require good timing and positioning on your end, and great Pseudoroid usage is heavily encouraged. This attack will probably probably force you to take a hit or two, but you can win the damage race with Hedgeshock. This fight is really, and I mean really hard, but you do have effective ways of working around their attacks. It's just when they get to half health do they truly earn their spot here. I'm not putting them in the same tier as Aeolus, but damn do they get close. Anyway, Model W steals our kill, and it turns out Albert's fine. He just bought some new hair dye, that's all. He does his evil laugh, and after we skedaddle away to Hunter Base, Ouroboros rises from the sky, and the goat Vent comes in to save the day, so we can go to the ultimate and final test of the minimum uses run, Ouroboros. You can get some Bifrost usage at the very start of this stage. It's the most he'll get, sadly, but switching to the Goyles is more effective. If you need the health and energy refills, use Vulturon over here. He's very useful if you want to play it safe. After the first section, Albert lets us hang out with our friends for a bit before we have to do the Mega Man staple boss rush. And it's the way we can fight Buckfire for the first time. Just use Hedgeshock for the whole fight and kill him. Very easy. I don't need to say it, but thankfully the rest of the Pseudoroids are easier to varying degrees. This section after really tests your patience. You'll have to use Hedgeshock and get further when you get your openings. Her Spark Balls can break many of these goopy blocks at once, and if you need movement, Queenbee's your gal. Towards the end, Vulturon could be very effective to make a safe path for you, and after careful usage, you'll be good to go. Vent lets us avoid a 4v1. I would have hated that since Aeolus is here. But we get to face Master Albert himself. This fight is the hardest in the game, both inside and outside of this challenge run. No contest about that. For the first part of his first phase, use Argoyle and spam R-Throw towards the core. If the middle head decides to attack, throw R-Throws at it until it reels back, then switch to Hedgeshock and roll under it. For the black and white hole attack, switch to Argoyle and book it towards the left immediately. When the second part starts, go in front of the core and use Chronoforce to block the projectiles. Of course, make sure to pop time bombs. The first phase is very difficult, making you have to micromanage with form switching and making Chronoforce practically required due to time bomb. His second phase requires a complete overhaul in strategy. Vulturon's sound vibration is essential for getting rid of Albert's shield, as all of these spits need to be hit enough for him to be vulnerable, but it needs to be done during the time bomb due to the regeneration. You'll need to switch to a fast Pseudoroid for the wind attack, Hedgeshock for the stab attack, and Chronoforce for the shuriken attack, as that'll give you an opening to set up a time bomb. Do be careful, as Albert can counter it, resetting the time slow. Once vulnerable, switch to Argoyle so you can use R-Throw for damage. It's the best option as other high damage attacks are either too risky or too slow to do anything meaningful, and even with that, opportunities for damage are pretty slim. As for his attacks, his sword and flame pillars are easy enough. His ice attack will need you to get close to him immediately or use a fire Pseudoroid, and his buster attack necessitates Queenbee to get over it. Regardless of the methods you do have to dodge the attacks, this fight is the ultimate endurance test, as you'll barely be able to damage Albert when he's vulnerable, and mistiming a time bomb will set you back at least a minute. After all of that torture, all of that suffering, we beat Albert, and the challenge is over. So can you beat Mega Man ZX7 with only Pseudoroids? No, but you can get pretty close with only 8 required non-Pseudoroid uses. If you count uses before Buckfire, it'd be 9 or 10, but again, that was an exception. The Pseudoroids are very cool additions, and could be fun and strong in their own rights, but most of them struggle with movement and combat prowess that the models have for free, so they sadly end up being more situational uses in a standard playthrough. This run was an amazing time, for the most part, as I got to use these Pseudoroids way more often than I realistically would, and it was consistently challenging. I wouldn't recommend doing the run at least the way I did it unless you have a lot of free time on your hands, especially when playing as Gray. Here's the Pseudoroid tier list, again relative to themselves, in the boss difficulty tier list. Pause to read per usual. That's it from me. This is Phoenix flying out. Have a good day, and I'll see you in my next video.